You are listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast brought to you by Birmingham Live.
Hello and welcome back to the Claret and Blue podcast. My name is Dan Rowitz and I'm joined once again by Matt Kendrick after an Aston Villa defeat at Villa Park. I say once again, that's not happened too many times this season, unfortunately, but the unbeaten run is over now. We can kind of finally stop talking about that. Obviously, I'd rather Villa got a result than we talk about ending the unbeaten run. However, it is a defeat. It's Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 2. Matt, I don't know if my audio's properly right, so while I try and fix that out, how are you? Is everything okay your end?
Yeah, I'm all right. So I might just fill in for a minute
Just
until you
go with it,
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. It was another flat departure from Villa Park after some positive signs, I thought, first half. I actually didn't get to Villa Park till about 12 minutes after 2.
Oh, really?
So I have subsequently seen, I do subsequently realise that we've lost 2-0, not 1-0. I have seen the first Mason Mount goal on the Tyrone Mings mistake. But because I hadn't seen that in the flesh, because I didn't rock up until, like I said, 12, 15 minutes into the game, I was actually encouraged by the first half performance. I thought that, if anything, Chelsea looked a little bit shaky from what I saw, and Villa, Kepa's had the game of his life. And I actually thought, we could. I'll correct myself. I didn't think we'd get anything out of it still, even at half-time, because I knew that Chelsea would adjust and they would realise, Graham Potter would realise that what he'd just seen wasn't going to win them the game if he allowed it to continue. But, we're trying to cling to positives at the moment. And I thought for certainly most of the 45 minutes that I saw the first half, I thought there were bright signs.
Well, we say when we do these, let's try and keep it to half an hour because we've got other things to do, but you have got to be away tonight in half an hour. So, rather crudely, I'm going to set a timer on my phone. We just hit 2 minutes. So, I've got 27 minutes and ticking. So, let's cram in some great Aston Villa chat. Once that goes off, podcast is over. We've got to be a bit strict with it tonight.
Just going to pull the plug, not even say goodbye.
Well, we'll have our Tyrone Mings segment, our John McGinn coming off segment, Where's Cameron Archer segment. I'll just copy and paste bits from previous episodes. We'll start with team news. A little bit of a change up. No Coutinho, no Buendia in this side. Danny Ings back in there. Ollie Watkins playing off the left-hand side and Leon Bailey as a front three. Ramsey, McGinn, Louise as the three central midfielders, which, again, we've talked a lot about. Does that work or not? Still not sure it does. What did you make that team news, though? You said you got to Villa Park late, but you know what the team was at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, I thought the front three did offer. We actually had a little bit of width. Ollie Watkins did try and play off the left more often than not, and Bailey was hugging the touchline more. So I think it gave you more width than we get sometimes if you've got Coutinho and Buendia, moving inside the pitch and making the pitch narrower. So, and I'm just trying to think of some of the chances. Obviously, the Danny Ings had the header, didn't he? That came from a wide area from Bailey. I think cutting back on his left down the right, and Kepa pulling off a great save from point blank range. How did you think? I'm just trying to remember how the triple save came back from McGinn, Ramsey, and
yeah, it was a nice.
That was just mad. It was like Pinball Wizard, wasn't it? The way it was pinging around the goal.
It was one of the ones that you just sit back and kind of stump back into your chair and go, we're not scored there. That kind of thing doesn't happen for Villa, does it? In the other end of the box, one of those gets a lucky deflection or something and forces somebody's feet and it ripples the back of the net. When it's Aston Villa, though, it's never quite works out in our favour. My dad thought we'd hit the post twice instead of the keeper saving. I don't know whether one was pushed onto the post. I've not seen anything back apart from obviously being inside the stadium. And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure he saved all of those.
I think the last one he pushed onto the post. The flag had gone up then anyway.
Yeah, I think he saved Ings, his one, didn't he? And then the offside flag went up. So I don't know whether Ings was offside anyway or whether it was a move after that. But regardless, you still think, come on, how have we not scored there?
Yeah, it seemed like there was a force field around the goal.
Kepa as well. Me and my dad were talking about it. I don't know whether my dad will end up watching this because we've lost. He usually only watches when we win, so he's probably only seen about 3 podcasts.
Have you ever seen it?
But he was saying, this Kepa, every so often he'll throw a goal in or he'll do something silly, and then he, like you said, has the game of his life, and he's kind of sunk back into his seat at some point. I wish I'd never said that about him throwing it. But I think it was 6 first half save, which was obviously a good performance from him. And we talked a little bit in the last episode about what's Gerrard's fault and what's the players. We'll talk about Tyrone Mings in a sec, but him doing that in the first few minutes and then an opposition goalkeeper playing very well is out of Steven Gerrard's hands to an extent. But those are the moments that he talks about that we're missing, those magic moments that we're waiting for something to happen. And if we do go into that first half 1-0 up or 2-0 up because we've taken some of our chances and we've come off the back of Nottingham Forest, a win there and a win against Leeds, it is a different conversation, but we haven't. So that isn't the conversation. We have to face the reality of we've been rubbish.
Yeah, I did wonder. I'm not saying it was done deliberately, but I did wonder if the Mings header. It definitely wasn't done deliberately. I did wonder if the Mings header was the Glenn Whelan moment, the Glenn Whelan missed penalty that was going to force the issue. But I don't think there was ever any danger of Gerrard losing his. Well, listen, stand corrected. We're only 2 hours after the game. I don't think there's any danger of Gerrard losing his job after today's game.
I'm not sure today's result would have defined Gerrard's future. I don't think if it was a 6-0 drubbing or something silly, then yeah, kind of fair enough. But did anyone expect us to beat Chelsea today? Even if Villa are on good form, you'd still say it's a tough game. So,
well, not even the manager expected him to wipe the floor with us, didn't he?
Yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah, not a fan of that.
It's things like that, Dan, where he doesn't do himself any favours. But in terms of the mistake for the opening goal, my daughter came to the match with us today, and she's just got mega into football lately.
She'll be mega out of football now then.
But because they've not really played before, until the last year or so, they're not quite confident heading the ball yet. So I was hoping to kind of show her kind of some of the best approaches to heading the ball on the Villa today. Unfortunately, she didn't see the Tyrone Mings one because it was proper kind of 50p head territory, wasn't it? The way it just went in the completely opposite direction to where it was intended. What was the for the second goal? I've not seen that back, the free kick decision. It looked a soft one to me, but...
Oh, you were talking about the decision. I've not thought about the decision, but the free kick, again, I've only seen it in the stadium. I've literally just rushed home, jumped straight on, and Belly and said hello to my partner, but she has made a cup of tea, so I should be more grateful. I've said hello. But just seeing the free kick in person, I thought, what's happened there? It's almost looked like it's gone down the middle of the goal. I don't know whether there's loads of whip on it and it's moved in the air, or I don't think it took a deflection. Saw a bit of text on my phone from one of the live feeds of BBC Sport or whoever it was saying that Martinez took a step to the one side and then kind of sold himself and couldn't get over to it. But again, it looked like we've conceded from Tyrone Mings heading it right to Mason Mount and he scores, and a free kick from not a mega dangerous area. Like, again, if that was a Villa free kick, it would have gone into the wall or over the bar, miles into the sky. Yeah, it's Mason Mount pulls out a goal out of nowhere, and I think, oh my God, how's that even gone in?
I've seen it back on YouTube since I've come back, and it got a lot of whip and dip and
a lot of whippage,
schwaz or whatever, or whatever it is. It got a lot on it. The ball moved a lot, but the thing that struck me, I thought it must have had a deflection at first because it didn't go in the corner. It was, not in the middle of the goal, but it was halfway. You know what I mean? A quarter of the way in from the right post.
Savable.
Well, yeah, but the thing that struck me, both at the game and looking back, I think the wall was further back than 10 yards.
Really?
It looked a long way back, which allowed the ball to get up and down. I don't know. I might just be making excuses, but it seemed like the Villa defence were retreating further than they needed to. Whether the referee made them do that, I can't even remember the process.
No, I can't.
But yeah, I think that was the difference, wasn't it? That Villa weren't clinical enough in forward areas and let themselves down, shot themselves in the foot with avoidable errors. And Chelsea, I thought Chelsea were lucky to be leading at half-time from what I'd seen. But I thought that we're saying is today down to the Villa's players or is it down to Gerrard? I still think it's a mixture of both. Yes, Gerrard's not responsible for Villa not, failing to score gilt-edged chances. But equally, I think he was out-coached in the second half. I think Potter realised that there were issues with his team. He put Koulibaly on, didn't he? In that kind of left defensive area, which looked like an area where Villa were having some joy in the first half. And, I think Chelsea knew that with a controlled performance, 1-0 would be enough. And Potter was able to exert that influence with the changes that he made.
You had Sterling kind of playing left wing back as well, didn't you? And I thought, maybe there's some joy for Leon Bailey down that side, and then Loftus-Cheek goes over to that side afterwards. Sterling goes further forward and then hits the crossbar not long after going further forward up the pitch. Aspilicueta came on at half time as well, and Koulibaly, and you think they've just got the tactical flexibility and the personnel to change it. And you just thought there's no way I mean, Chelsea weren't that good. I was about to say there's no way they'll be that bad in the second half. It wasn't Chelsea being bad. It was, but I just thought that's Chelsea's bad half out of the way. They'll be markedly improved in the second half, and we're already 1-0 down. We've scored 3 goals in the last 4 games. If Villa are going to win a game, they score 1 goal, and it's a 1-0 win at the moment, or 1-1 draw. So if Chelsea go to 2-0, it's definitely game over because we won't even score 2 goals to come back and draw the game. Never mind 3 goals to win it. So at 1-0. You do kind of sit there, and I don't know how many other people at Villa Park today are watching on TV, conceding after 7-8 minutes or something. And I thought, game over then. The best we'll do today is a draw, a 1-1 draw, so we won't score 2 goals to win it. That's ball.
I think the point you've just made there is key because in terms of Potter identified, made the changes at the right times, continued making the changes. I think he used up all of his 5 substitutes by the end of the game in terms of
certainly 4, yeah.
Terms of game management. But to be fair, he's got a more of a star cast on his bench, so he's got an array of substitutes who can make kind of horses for courses adjustments to games. We don't know whether Gerrard's got that because I don't think he trusts enough of his squad to try them. I don't think he's as tactically flexible and as able to make those in-game changes. But it could be different
I don't think any of that. I don't think. Yeah, that is true. That if we potentially we're tuning up at half time on another day, and we kind of said that a few times. It could have been different against Forest. Could have been different against Leeds. Could have been different against Man City. But it wasn't. So it isn't. I don't think the changes made sense to me. I didn't really know what we were trying to do later in the game. I think McGinn comes off for Coutinho, and Coutinho's playing midfield, and Dendoncker comes on for Ramsey to cover a little bit. But you just think, well, Coutinho tried to make us a bit more attacking, and then Dendoncker's making us less attacking from Ramsey. The front 3 is Bailey and Watkins, who are still the kind of narrow 10s, but certainly more wide than Coutinho and Buendia have been in recent games. And then when that's not quite working, or you need a little bit more, you go, right, Coutinho, get on there, Buendia, get on there. But you can't make like-for-like changes because we've got rid of all our other wingers. So Ollie Watkins is playing a lot down the left-hand side and running in and trying to put balls into the box, and Bailey the same. But you can't bring on, and then these aren't the answer, but you can't bring on Traore or Trezeguet or El Ghazi and stick to the same system because we've got no out-and-out wingers on the bench anymore. The only way you can change it is by bringing those narrow number 10 players back on, and the system reverts to type, and it's very narrow and very stodgy, and nothing comes from nothing comes from the second half, to be honest. We made a lot of changes, a lot of chances in the first half, but the second half, we were totally blunt, I thought, and as much as Chelsea stepped it up and identified problems, they also didn't have to get out of second gear to get a result today.
Yeah, I was talking. I was conversing on Twitter with a Twitter account, Talking Tactics, the other day. It's a very good account, actually. Really is able to, pick apart games better than we can. But the point I wanted to make was the reason I was talking to him was how managers in press conferences don't like to receive questions about tactics from journalists because they think it's always a criticism. When for me, sometimes, like you've just said, the substitutions, I don't know, I've not been to a press conference today, but I imagine if a journalist would have asked Gerrard about those questions, about those substitutions today, he would have probably got the hump, as if to say, why are you questioning me? I know better than you. Whereas actually, it could have been, just explain it to us.
It's an education moment, isn't it? I don't quite understand what you've done. Educate me, yeah.
Exactly, and this is not peculiar to Gerrard. There's lots of managers who I've seen being questioned on tactics and think, how dare, see it as a criticism rather than a, right, you're the coach, you're working on this game plan, you're sharing, you're trying to get this philosophy over the line. Just explain it to us.
I mean, maybe they don't want to give stuff away. Is a potential reason for, but I mean, is there much kind of cloak and dagger over changing Coutinho for Buendia?
Their opponent would credit, is it? Because you know what I mean. You'd think that their opponents would work it out, even if us dumb journalists wouldn't. But yeah, so it was. I think it was a mixture. It was a mixture of us not being, not taking our chances, and then when Chelsea made their changes to exert control on the second half, not really having an answer for it. Second half, I've seen Gerrard saying that we had a good 60 minutes and a poor 30. I'm not sure. Did we have a good 15 in the second half? Not really that sure. Perhaps I've got a short memory. But other than a couple of set pieces that have, had headers a long way off target. I don't think we've massively threatened in the second half, and I don't think Chelsea have been really tested. And the thing that surprised me as well, and I know they're a good team, a very good team, but just how easy they were able to play their way out of our half-arsed press. Just, 2 or 3 passes, without having to break a sweat. But yeah, so it leaves us, what does it leave us point-wise? Is it 10 games?
10 games, less than a point per game now. I mean, we were kind of joking about it, going, "Oh, we have a point per game. If we carry out over the course of the season, it'll be 38 points." But it's it's not exactly great. We're now on track for less than that. It's only by 1 point less than per game, but still crap.
Not even late night porridge at the moment, is it?
Yeah, exactly. And bizarrely, we kind of say all what we said about the game so far, but it was probably one of our better performances. Certainly in the first half, it's kind of reminded me a little bit of the Spurs game at home last season. Yeah. We created a lot of chances in the first half, and you think, we've done well here against a good side. Like, we should be winning 2 or 3-0. Like, if on another day, if we're clinical and ruthless, we're winning at half time. And then they suddenly make a few tweaks, and their world-class players come into play in the second half, and they get something out of nothing and win the game. I mean, obviously Spurs a lot more comfortably than Chelsea today, but we kind of gift them the goal in the first 10 minutes or so, and then Mason Mount scores that free kick in the second. But besides that, Chelsea weren't really, cutting us apart, being super dangerous, or having loads and loads of chances. And you think, oh my God, we're really being battered here. On another day, like I say, rubbish phrasing. It keeps sounding another day. This, potentially this, if that. I mean, it wasn't any of that, so there's no point going on about it. But a better Aston Villa side should have got something today, and we haven't, because we're not a good enough side.
Yeah, it's the thing that struck me today as well was there any chance today in terms of the atmosphere seemed so subdued?
Very flat, yeah. I mean, you missed the opening again. That's kind of the best bit, isn't it? Teams come out and a couple of chances early doors, and then you can see it early, and that's the end of it, really. And I think the second goal absolutely killed it in terms of atmosphere and any kind of. Well, we all knew, like I said, at 1-0, I sat there and thought, well, we won't get back into this at 2-0. Absolutely, certainly no chance we get back into this. And that does kill it. Very, loads of empty seats at 80 minutes or so. Talk about the Gerrard out chance and stuff in a sec. But yeah, really flat. Well, what do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken previously, haven't we, about this disconnect between the manager and the fan base. But I think, I don't know, what a mutual appreciation society, what is the opposite of that? A mutual annoyance society, or what? Because that's what we've got at the moment. I just don't think that this is a sweeping generalisation, which is what you come to Claret and Blue podcast for. But I just don't think Aston Villa fans like Gerrard, and I don't think Gerrard likes Aston Villa fans. To be honest, I think it's just, we saw at the end again, didn't we? Where I think he shook the hands of pretty much everybody on the pitch, officials, opponents, his own players. Yet. Didn't even look up to the stands to acknowledge the Villa fans, let alone applaud them, and disappeared.
Well, obviously you missed the start, and we sit in the same stand, but different parts of it. You're up here, I'm lower, so I'm looking around the stadium. I can only really see what individuals are doing in my kind of little block that I'm looking around down at. I'm kind of 8-9 rows back, so I can see. I'm by the dugout. He walks all the way along the front of me, and I'm watching as many people as I can. Applause for the team as they come out. Gerrard obviously comes out 30 seconds or whatever after the players do. Not many people clapping him even before the game. Obviously they all kind of look up and give a little applause, and there was that, but there was nothing back. And then it was kind of like heads down, just walk straight to the dugout because they're not giving me anything, so I'm not going to give them anything. Is how I saw it. I didn't clap him on the way through. Clap the players, didn't clap the manager. Said before, so that's almost a little bit of a superstitious thing from my point of view. Like, we're losing at half time, I don't clap them out afterwards because you don't deserve it. Make me clap you is how I think of it. It's a stupid superstition thing that I've done for ages. If we're losing, I won't clap. But I just thought, I just don't care anymore about Steven Gerrard. It's how I feel about it.
It's horrible.
I just don't get it. I don't think it's going to change. So, again, prove me wrong. Make me look like an idiot by not supporting you from minute one. The manager, I've supported the players. If we win today, I'm going to come on here and go, you got it right. And to be fair, tactically, I don't think it is as much on Gerrard today as it has been in other games, like where you thought, what are we doing? Like, what are we trying to do? It's very clear that get it to Mings, get it to Ashley Young or whoever, long balls down to Watkins or Bailey and try and get a ball into the box rings. And on occasion that did work and we did make chances. So it's a lack of confidence or ability or finesse or technical ability or whatever that we're not able to stick the ball in the back of the net. So, yeah, like we said, if we do win today because the players managed to finish the dinner and Tyrone doesn't give away an early goal, we're all sitting here going, oh, Gerrard's changed it and we've won. Fair play to him. But again, we didn't. So we have to question it.
But I think this sense of disconnect between the fans and the manager means that even the good bits are hard for people to get, to really, really enjoy or get behind, or to view as a turning of a corner, because there's already too much kind of bad blood in a way. It's like the analogy time. It's like the final stages of a relationship to me. That even if Gerrard's doing nice things like we saw with the first half today, even if he's buying flowers, he's left his pants around the place on the floor and stunk the place out so many times that we don't. Those gestures aren't enough. Do you know what I mean? I get this real, and like I say, this doesn't want. I don't want to kick Steven Gerrard today because I don't think, in terms of managing the football club, in terms of the team that he picked and the way that he set them up to start the game, I think it was more right than we've seen in recent weeks. But I just can't get away from this sense that, even if he wins games, I almost get the sense that do it in spite of Villa fans, not for Villa fans. And I've probably been too harsh here, but it's just, I don't know, it just feels so kind of almost him and us, which I think is a horrible place to be with a manager who's kind of holding our hopes in his hands. Really, it's horrible that we don't have that sense of warmth.
I never thought we'd be talking about Steven Gerrard's dirty underpants on this podcast, but yeah, here we are. And me and my dad were talking about on the way there. He said about, people say about like he's not likable and stuff, and I'm not sure where that comes from. Like he seems to have a laugh with some of the journos and stuff in press conferences, but it's just something. Again, I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. It's just, and again, we've talked about this before. If Steven Gerrard was a successful Villa manager, it wouldn't be that his comparisons to, well, he's not Dean Smith, he's not a Villa fan, because he's winning games, so it doesn't matter. But it's almost like, well, because he's followed Dean Smith and we had that connection with him and he seemed like a nice, friendly guy. And I mean, Steven Gerrard is probably a lovely human being in reality. I've never met him. You've met him once in a press dinner or whatever. You've never met him in a physical work capacity of interviewing him and stuff like that. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice guy. But it's just something where I just think, like you said, if we'd have won, there'd be some comment in there that would warm me up. Do you know what I mean? There's something that's going to work. I mean, I think that's a bit arrogant, it's a bit cocky or whatever. So that comment yesterday, and me and Ash, I think, spoke about it on the preview about Purslow saying that we've been unlucky this season. It's like, I don't like that because we haven't been unlucky, we've been crap. And Gerrard saying like, Chelsea, so like Chelsea should come to Villa and wipe the floor with us. It's like, you're representing us. Like, we can sit here as fans and go, oh yeah, I expect Man City to beat us 10-0 or whatever because they're this and we're this. But you're the manager, you're the face of it. You're supposed to go out there and say, we can win every single game. That's the attitude you're supposed to have. So I just watched that clip yesterday. Well, actually, I saw the quote first and thought, it's probably just been taken out of context or whatever.
I thought it was made up, that quote. I didn't believe
it. And I saw the full clip with the context of a minute and a half of other nonsense, effectively. And I thought, it's worse. It's worse with the context of like building Chelsea up and crying pot of this and crying pot of that. Oh, great to have young English managers and they should come to Villa Park and wipe the floor with us. I don't know why I went after seeing that because I thought, well, what are we going to do then?
Mate, you want to wipe the floor with them pants that he's leaving around?
Yeah, good. There's a few comments saying stuff like, we're all kind of really Gerrardian and wanting to get rid of Smith in the back of it, the tail end of his era. I was never really massively Smith out at any point, even right up until the end. Like I thought, this is time up kind of thing. I understood why, but I also would have understood if you'd have said, well, what we're actually going to do is give Dean Smith the next 8 months, the rest of the season. I'd have gone, okay, fair enough. I understand that as well. Today, if you say we're going to sack Gerrard or give him the rest of the season, I'll be going, I'm not sure about giving him the rest of the season. Whereas with Dean Smith, I could have at least gone, well, I can kind of see why maybe that would be the case. But I can also see why he's been sacked. With Gerrard, I don't see a scenario where he turns it around. So I don't really know what we're waiting for. Do we have to lose to Fulham on Thursday night before he finally gets the axe, or do we win against Fulham and then that prolongs it a little bit? I don't know. I just don't get it anymore. I don't know what we're doing, to be honest.
It's very close to Smith in terms of points per games now. I think Smith.
Yeah, the record is similarly bad. Yeah.
Yeah, Smith was sacked, wasn't he? 11 games and 10 points. I mean, I didn't really want Dean Smith sacked, but I understood why he was sacked ultimately.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wasn't the biggest champion for bringing Steven Gerrard in, but as soon as he came through the door, I was actually quite impressed by the way he carried himself. His first presser, and he was very respectful.
He started well as well.
Obviously had the new manager bounce and thought, actually, this guy comes with a big reputation, but he's clearly been cutting his teeth in a difficult environment in Scotland, and he can bring some gravitas and get some high standards. Not that not that the standards were particularly sloppy, I don't think, under Dean Smith, but I thought it was an exciting fresh start. But we're a year on.
I was the quote about progression. Yes, that was it. The other one, and this was, I don't know if it was an embargo presser comment, but it came out yesterday about, I can see signs of improvement since we've been here, and I came in and it was 5 defeats and we were 16th, 2 points off the bottom 3. It's like, we're 16th, 2 points off the bottom 3 now. I think we're 16th, 1 point off the bottom 3 now after the game. Yeah, I think that's what I mean. It was a pre-game quote that it was. But it's like, in what world is that progression? Is it progression just in the last 5 games before the sacking? It's 5 in a row losses for Dean Smith, whereas if Gerrard was sacked tonight, he'd be going, well, I was unbeaten in 4 of those 5, so that's progression. But over the course of the calendar year, we're actually worse off than we were under Dean Smith, and aiming, heading in this kind of rudderless, what are we kind of scenario of what our tactics is, who our best players are, what is plan A, what's plan B, what are we going to do this season? Will we finish top 10? Is it a relegation fight? Will Steven Gerrard be manager or not? That's a horrible, rubbish situation to be in. And we've said exactly the same things on every single podcast for at least 3 or 4 episodes in a row now. Now, I started the season after the Bournemouth game going, Gerrard doesn't have a good next few weeks. He's on thin ice. And he's still here 2 months later on thin ice that's getting thinner every single game. At what point is that ice going to crack and we have to go, right, well, this clearly isn't working. Time to make a change. How many more defeats do we have to sit through before we go, right, damage done, let's start again?
Yeah, well, I think there was obviously Chelsea fans were taunting him with the old sacked in the morning chants, and I think I've read some of his post-match press conference comments where he says that he heard a few people from the Holt End, a group in the Holt End he's aware of, joining in as well. So I don't know who those guys are, but
you could hear it from the upper Holt, people joining in with that. And there was, again, he was booed down the tunnel from the people in and around that tunnel area. So, like we said last game, once the away fans turned, there was a chance of Gerrard out then, and it might have only been a couple of hundred or whatever, or tens even. But the longer that goes on, again, home fans turn. If we do lose on Thursday night against Fulham, or even if we don't win, to be honest, I still think there's going to be some kind of disgruntlement towards him. And like we said at the start, I don't know whether that kind of tetchy relationship can be made up now. What's he going to do? Like win 3 or 4 in a row for us to go, okay, actually, I'm warming to you, Stevie G.
Yeah, I think the thing is, when was the last? I don't want to make a big deal about it and never talk about anything, but when was the last time he did go over and acknowledge the Villa fans? Was it the Man City game?
Probably Southampton.
So when we've got a result, so is that because he's a little bit ashamed of the performance and doesn't want to put himself in that situation? Does he think that you should only acknowledge the support when we've won games? Because that seems a bit, or had impressive draws. Seems a very strange strategy for me. And it
change it then. If you're ashamed of the performances, change it.
Yeah, or just front it. Well, ideally change it, yeah. But if that's proving harder than we think, as it tends to be, just front it. You know what I mean? I don't know. It all plays into this feeling that he's just passing through. He's just passing through on the Stevie G Roadshow. In his mind, we're lucky that he decided to stop and bring his brand to us. And I just think,
thanks for that.
No, and if we are to be blessed by the Stevie G brand, at least give us something good to remember you by if you are passing through, because it's still pretty miserable despite that strong first half today. Let's see what the next game brings. We've got Fulham and we've got Brentford. We'll have been able to measure Steven Gerrard's performance at the start of the season versus Dean Smith's performance at the start of last season. Let's see how it squares up. It's going to need something spectacular, I think, to convince us that he deserves longer than Smith and that he can actually build something lasting here.
Yeah, agreed. There is 28 seconds left on our timer, so we've come to a natural conclusion, but we haven't really spoken about Tyrone Mings, and I feel like we've probably got to speak about it a little bit. So if you can stay on for another couple of minutes. The thing that annoys me with the Tyrone Mings thing, it's not the mistake and the football thing, because mistakes happen, and he's probably been our best performer so far this season. The thing that annoys me, and there'll be people who are of this mindset, who are anti-Tyrone Mings and don't like him, that end up watching this podcast, saying, "Oh, I'm just sticking up for him, I'm just defending him. What do you know? You've always supported him." So, there's the timer. Sorry, but it's like people coming out going, there was a comment that came through on YouTube on our last podcast while I was at the game. Some service came through and I got a notification, and it was like, "Captain Calamity, what a surprise, get rid of him now." That was during the game. Someone hopped onto YouTube to send a hateful comment about Tyrone Mings just because he's had this not flawless season so far, but he's been much improved this year. And the minute he makes a mistake, it's this, "Oh, get him out, he's useless, always makes a mistake. He makes a mistake every single game." It's like, do we really have to go through that every time somebody makes a mistake? Like, I know we've slagged off a lot of players this season. It was a bad mistake. It's killed the game effectively. Because like I've said, it wouldn't come back.
Yeah, it's effectively lost us the game. So we can dig him out. You can't defend a centre half. Shouldn't be heading the ball. Shouldn't effectively claim 2 assists today for both goals. Header for the first one and a foul for the second one. Although I've not seen that second foul back. So, slag
off the performance and the mistake. Absolutely,
it should be better, but I'm confident that it will be better. I'm confident that over the course of the season, he helps us out more often than he lets us down. So
that's been proven this season. That's his. All this, like, he makes a mistake every game. He costs us goal every game. This kind of hyperbole that comes with it. He doesn't. He's had 7 or 8 very good games this season. That's his first real mistake of the season. And hopefully, it's another 10 games or so before he does make another mistake, obviously, at least. I just don't like the kind of hatred that comes with Tyrone making mistakes.
It's a football thing, though, Dan, isn't it? I think we've spoken before.
Is it a football thing, or is it just a horrible people thing?
I think football fans have scapegoats, don't they? And he's become a scapegoat for whatever reason, whether it's his performance on the pitch, we've spoke before, whether it's his politics, whatever it is. But on days like today, where he's picked out Mason Mount with a header straight into his path, you can't defend.
Yeah, I'm not defending.
All you can do
at all
is base it on what he's done before, how he's bounced back from mistakes, and how he's been a good leader for Villa. So I expect him to be a good leader. I mean, we're going to have a battle. He's got a battle, hasn't he, against Mitrovic on was it Thursday night we play? And then on Sunday, we've got Ivan Toney, who's in the form of his life. So let's see. The gauntlet's thrown down for him. I thought he got a bad injury, to be honest. The way he went down, he landed funny towards the end of the game. So I was chuffed to see he was back up on his feet. So let's hope he's fully fit, because I'd rather face those next 2 opponents with Tyrone Mings at the heart of our defence than with alternatives, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to talk about a couple more individuals, but I don't really see the point. I was just going to say about McGinn being subbed off again. We talked about it. We're going to see what I said last podcast about it again. Don't think it's a good look, but if the player's not performing, I actually thought McGinn was better, which was surprising. I thought it was probably one of his better games this season, but he still gets dragged off after 70 minutes or so, and you kind of think, is this sub going to even make a change anyway? I'm not so sure.
Hang on a minute. You told me I've got to stand for 2 minutes to talk about Tyrone Mings, mate. I'm not going for the whole team.
I know. That's why I'm trying to wrap up. Can you just give me your kind of 30 seconds summary of today and the situation? Because like you said, it's only 3 hours after full time. There is the possibility that there is a club statement at some point. And if there is, we'll have to do another podcast at some point. But let's just say that Stephen Gerrard will still be in charge come Thursday night. How do you kind of assess that whole situation? Just wrap it up in a nice bow for me so I can stick this clip on social media.
Oh, God, no pressure. Aston Villa 0, Chelsea 2.
Today's classified results.
I don't know. I don't think Aston Villa versus Chelsea was not going to be Stephen Gerrard drinking in the last chance saloon. But I think as he approaches the bar against Fulham and Brentford, I think his chances are receding quickly. I think not only in terms of tangible rewards of points and victories and the position in the table, but also in terms of this deteriorating relationship with the people who, should have the closest bond with the manager. So I think Villa Park, it'd be interesting. Villa Park was pretty flat, as we've said today. Be interesting what it's like next Sunday to be honest. And I think I think Villa Park is going to be a not very nice place next Sunday if we emerge with anything less than a point at Fulham. Even if we emerge with a point, I think it's still going to be a pressure cooker atmosphere for him. And I've said it before. I think we're still approaching the end game, and I think we're delaying the inevitable. But it's up to Gerrard, and it's up to Gerrard to produce another performance like the first 45 today, and it's up to his players to actually help the manager by sticking the ball in the net and increasing that goal tally of seven from 10 games. It's pretty bleak, isn't it?
What odds would you give me on Gerrard being sacked after Thursday and Neil Critchley caretaker manager for Sunday?
I don't know. I still think, as I've said all along, I think as soon as Villa drop into that bottom three, I think then it really focuses the minds of Christian Purslow and the board, because that potential financial meltdown of losing the Premier League money suddenly thinks, hang on a bit, we've got to address this. I think while we're still hovering above it, I think there's going to be a resistance to get rid of him and abandon the project. But having said that, we could be pretty close. We were already pretty close to that bottom three anyway. So I don't know. I think I've fudged the answer there, haven't I?
That'll do. It's a point. I mean, a point from the relegation should be setting off alarm bells. No one actually dropping into the bottom three. I'd rather we sort things before it's too late, to be honest. And it's not like we're bottom of the league and about to be cut adrift, but we've said for weeks and weeks we don't see any signs of things improving. Although we were slightly better for 45 minutes today, or 60 minutes, as Gerrard liked to say, we made some chances and could have been different if we'd actually scored a couple of those, but it wasn't. So we've not seen enough to make us go, yeah, he needs the rest of the season. Like, it's now each game goes by, you think, is this the one? Is this the one he goes? We'll see. But we'll see what happens over the next week. There's still another long 3 or 4 days until our next game on Thursday night. So if something does happen before then, obviously we'll come on and talk about it. We'll do a match preview for the Fulham game regardless. And then we'll be back, I assume, you and me again Thursday night. It's on Amazon Prime, so jump on at full time.
Yeah, you might need to ping me a link or so.
Okay.
I'll get it. I will buy it legitimately, don't worry.
Okay, good.
For any of those kind of dodgy vans parked outside my house.
Yeah, okay. All right. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for the comments as well. I was trying to read them, but there's a lot of animosity and a lot of arguing amongst people in the comments as well, which is just that's the nature of where we are, isn't it, with Villa at the moment. Matt, thanks for your time. As ever, go and enjoy the rest of your evening with whatever you're up to next. And we'll speak in the next few days. Cheers, everyone.
Villa.
Thank you for listening to Claret and Blue, an Aston Villa podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please do let us know. We love hearing your feedback. We'll be back soon with another episode, but until then, up the Villa.